Welcome to Diplomatic Channel. I am Amarachi Ubani. We're gradually grinding down to the last days of the year, and what a year it has been. While a lot of us may be looking forward to the year ahead, for people in countries such as Burundi, expectations have turned into a prayer. As you may have observed this past week, the country was thrown into more political turmoil where nearly 90 people were killed in recent clashes between ethnic groups and security forces. International intervention has been long overdue in the country, especially for an organization such as the African Union, which did not make a move until Friday, when it announced it was considering deploying 5,000 troops to protect the lives of citizens there. We'll be discussing this later on the program. Then, we're keeping an eye on progress reports on and about Syria. Russian President Vladimir Putin is talking tough on its military operations in Syria. President Putin says Russia has other things as well and will use them if necessary. Then we review the U.S. Democratic election debate. Preparations are heating up for election year. The Republicans had their final debate before the primaries during last week, and it was interesting to see what the varying solutions to fighting global terrorism all came from a good place. Stay with us for more on these right here on Diplomatic Channel. Here are a few major stories in diplomatic circles. 6 foreigners have been killed following a suicide bomb attack on a patrol near a base in Bagram, east of Afghanistan. The bomber had been riding a motorcycle or another vehicle. Head of Public Affairs at the Resolute Support Base in the Afghan capital, Kabul, said 3 foreign soldiers had also been wounded. The Taliban has claimed responsibility for the attack. Meanwhile, in a show of solidarity, a group of Kenyan Muslims traveling on a bus risked their lives by protecting Christian passengers among them when they were ambushed by Islamist gunmen. An employee of the Makkah bus company said the Muslims had refused to be separated from their fellow Christian passengers. 2 people were, however, killed in the attack. One of them was shot dead after trying to run away from the militants after passengers had been forced off the bus. Authorities suspect the Somali-based Al-Shabaab group for being behind the attacks. 2 people have been detained for their connection to the bomb scare on an Air France flight that was forced to land in Kenya on Sunday. The 2, a man and his wife, had been on the flight and are being questioned by authorities. The Boeing 777 had been on its way from Mauritius to Paris, carrying 459 passengers and 14 crew members when the suspicious object was found in a plane toilet and decision made to make an emergency landing. Finally, the United States has warned citizens to avoid the Tunisia Mall in Berger du Lac area in the capital, Tunis, because of a possible terror attack. Tunisia's security forces have been on high alert since the November 24 suicide bombing that killed 12 presidential guards as they boarded a bus to start their tour of duty. The country has become a target for militants after being praised as a symbol of democratic change in the region. Since its 2011 uprising that sent President Zine Abidine Ben Ali packing. Welcome back. Let's begin in the Middle East, specifically in Syria, where Russian President Vladimir Putin is determined to wipe out ISIS for good. Over the weekend, President Putin said Russia has a lot of other things which it will use as necessary against the terrorists. Meanwhile, the UN on Saturday endorsed a roadmap for a Syria peace process.
I want to stress that these are by far not all our capabilities. What we use there is by far not all we have. We have more military means, and we'll use them if need be. President Vladimir Putin's address could have been described as the Russian leader blowing his trumpet over Russia's successes over Syria. Where Western powers have tread with caution over the war in Syria, Russia's military forces have reportedly carried out airstrikes on militant targets, decimating its population and stronghold. More than 250,000 people have been killed in the civil war in Syria, and millions more have had to seek shelter in Lebanon and Jordan. The more courageous ones have taken the dangerous trip across the Mediterranean into Europe. For 5 years, President Bashar al-Assad forces have withstood rebel groups, not only calling for him to step down, but threatening Syria's sovereignty in the process. Proposed peace talks have accomplished little, And the UN, in one more attempt, endorsed a peace plan for the war-torn nation, including calls for a ceasefire, which have failed in the past. Passed unanimously, the resolution set out a timetable for formal talks on a unity government within 6 months. The resolution, however, makes no mention of the Syrian president Bashar al-Assad playing any future role.
It is Assad who bears the responsibility for the majority of the deaths in Syria.
President Assad, in our judgment, and not everybody shares this, but the majority of the people in the ISSG believe that President Assad has lost the ability, the credibility, to be able to unite the country and to provide the moral credibility to be able to govern it into the future.
The resolution has been welcomed by Syria's Grand Mufti, Ahmed Badruddin Hassoun, who said he wished the resolution had been converted into action and not just words on paper. But he wants the discussions to be among the Syrian people without external interference. As for President Bashar al-Assad, external belittling of his person and leadership have never been of primary concern. On Friday, he and his wife Asma paid a visit to members of a choir during their Christmas concert preparations in a church in Damascus. Pictures have emerged of both of them with choir members at the church in an area held by rebels.
When we come back after the break, the attention is on Burundi and international intervention. Please stay with us.